Well, week 3 was either the best or the worst special teams weekend of all time, depending on how you look at it. And we had 7, count them, 7 games come down to game-winning scores in the last 3 minutes of the game. Apparently, the most in 48 years in a single Sunday. So 3 weeks into the season, we still really have no idea what any of these teams are. Like, we're fairly confident that a few of them are good. But then again, as soon as we do get confident that one of these teams is really good, they then lose to Cleveland. So I don't know, EJ. It's a weird season, which typically makes for an entertaining season. But we're going to do our best to try to make sense of what we just saw. How are you?
I'm good. It's always fun, regardless of whether you know what's going on. That's what makes the NFL fun. If it was more predictable, it would be less enjoyable. And yes, that depends on what side you're on any given weekend. But this weekend, I was on a good side, so I'm pretty happy about it.
On the docket today, we're going to talk about the Eagles' offense, specifically, what fueled the turnaround from the first half to the second half. I know it's easy to say, well, they just threw to A.J. Brown. Yes, you're correct, but also there's like a little bit more than that. And also I have some bones to pick with Kevin Patullo because not all their issues are fixed yet. So we'll get through that. We'll talk about the Bears offense, and still not all their issues are fixed yet either, but at least, they played against arguably the worst defense in the league. So that helped out. We'll talk about what the hell went wrong with Michael Penix. That was a rough outing for him and potentially could spell issues in Atlanta going forward. And then what's our last? That's right. The Packers lost, EJ, to Cleveland. And the 2023 Browns defense might be back and potentially even better than that one. So lots to get to today. Neil, please roll the intro. Welcome to the Bootleg Football Podcast. I'm Brett Coleman. That's EJ Snyder. Fun week of football to get to. Real quick, before we get started, I do want to thank Underdog Fantasy for coming back and sponsoring us this season. They love us, but more importantly, they love you. And them being here shows how much they believe in our audience because they wouldn't be back if they didn't. So we appreciate you, Underdog, for helping to fund this show for another season. Reminder, if you want to support us, the best way to do that is to support our sponsors. So if you want to play Pick'ems this season, do so over on Underdog. If you use promo code BOOTLEG and you play $5, you get up to $50 in bonus credits on top of that. So we thank you once again, Underdog. Hopefully I don't get smoked on Thursday as bad as I did this Sunday. Thank you. Chiefs offense in general, I guess, for that one. I don't know why I was positive about them, even against the Giants. That didn't go my way, but it's okay. We're going to talk about some actual good offenses today, starting with the Eagles. EJ, before I get into my spiel, what's your top-down perspective on this?
Well, it's halvesies. Definitely two halves of offense for the Eagles. The first half, not good. Looked very similar to previous weeks and a lot of the issues that people have been asking questions about and sort of waiting for Kevin Patullo to get his feet underneath him and when's the outside passing game going to happen? And it didn't happen in the first half, and the outlook was not great for the Eagles before halftime. So what changed in the second half? Well, using the outside wide receivers. Sometimes it just is that easy. Throw the ball to your very best player. We've been asking for this for 2 weeks. But again, in the first half, Devonta Smith had 2 catches for 16 yards. A.J. Brown had 0. In the second half, they combined for 13 catches. A.J. had 6 for 109 yards and a touchdown. Devonta had 7 for 60 and another touchdown. Putting the ball in Jalen Hurts' hands and asking him to make plays down the field because he's good at it. That's what we've been saying as well. Is it's not like you're going, well, I guess we're out of options. We're going to have to ask the quarterback to do stuff he's not good at. No, he is good at it. Hurts' career rate, 10-plus yard throws outside the numbers. Over 4,000 yards, 4,306 yards, 33 TDs, 17 interceptions, 64 big-time throws, and an NFL passer rating of 94.8. That's his career rating before this season for those throws. For those throws on Sunday. His numbers. He was 4 for 6 for 95 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks, a rating of 149.3. I think it's safe to say he was happy to be out of dink and dunk jail. In weeks 1 and 2, his average depth of target was low. And we've been saying this, but it was not just low. It was ridiculously low. It was 5.9 yards per. It ranked 33rd for the first 2 weeks out of passers with at least 25 dropbacks. They took the cuffs off and it almost immediately paid dividends. This is the thing that drives me insane is they were like, well, I guess we're going to have to throw it to AJ. They throw it to AJ for a huge gain. Breaks open the second half. They keep doing it. They score. They come back. They win a game that probably, quote unquote, they shouldn't have. Or if you look at it the other way as an Eagles fans, probably could have won going away if you'd been doing this approach in the first half. I don't really know what to make of it, but I know you've got bones to pick with Patullo.
Well, first of all, I want to address the point you made of there's Rams fans that are thinking like, oh my God, we had 2 blocked kicks. We got messed up on 4th and 1. Like that game should have been ours, right? And I look at it from the perspective you just brought up, which is if the Eagles had their shit together from the jump, like I don't think that would have been a close game, right? Because if you're looking at the Rams mismatch on the outside defensively, AJ Brown outweighs their corners by like 40 to 50 pounds, right? Like that should have been the game plan from the start. And we had actually brought this up in our preview episode of like, if they get AJ going vertically early, I didn't think that the Rams, with their injury issues up front on the offensive line and how dependent they were, for their passing game, they were so dependent on using under center play action dropbacks, where it's like if they had to get into the gun, they had these crazy like gun versus under center splits. I was like, if they have to get into the gun and drop back and throw over and over again, I don't know if they're going to be able to come back. And so I was like, Eagles got to jump on them early. They got to weaponize AJ. Like that's the mismatch. And they didn't. And that was what was really frustrating is I was like, yeah, you could call it a comeback for the Eagles, but to quote the great prophet LL Cool J, don't do that. Because I don't think it's a comeback. I just more think the Eagles were finally playing like the Eagles for the last 25 minutes of the game. Not even 25 minutes, right?
Nobody happier in the world than Sean McVay that the Eagles didn't light up the outside passing game. He had to be sitting on the sideline thinking, okay, if you're going to hand it to me, I'll take it. But I don't know why they're not doing it, but also don't wake them up. I don't care. And then in the second half, he was like, oh, damn it.
Yeah, it's like, they figured out they have an easy button that they could have been hitting this entire time, right? And there's macro stats here and micro stats here. And so I think I'll start with the macro because that overall sets the table. But I want to walk you through the events of the first half that both indirectly and kind of directly led to the events of the second half. Like why they woke up essentially at halftime or a little after halftime. So the macro stat to pay attention to is go route percentage. And we had brought this up last season, right? When there was murmurs, I guess you could say, of a dissatisfied AJ Brown. And it's like, why isn't the Eagles passing game working? And even though they're winning, and there was all that stuff. And we were talking about how Kellen Moore last year, their offensive coordinator, had deprioritized the go ball with AJ. And that happened again this year. If you're looking at weeks 1 and 2, only 19.6% of AJ Brown's routes were go balls. If you look at week 3, it was 33%. So they finally got back to doing what he is best at doing, which is winning the one-on-one on the outside. And how the Eagles offense operates, at least when it's at its best, right, is they like to use a lot of 3-by-1. They like to be in the gun, and they're always going to have, a 3-man, sometimes a 4-man concept to the field. And then when it's at its best, it's AJ, isolated backside. He's the easy button. If we get the one-on-one, we'll take the shot. Because to your point, Jalen Hurts is really, really good at throwing that ball. He's one of the best throwers in the NFL of hitting go balls, whether it's to the field or to the boundary, right? He's ridiculous at it. And the Rams kind of knew that the Eagles do like to run a lot of these like 3-man concepts to the field, and Jalen's eyes are always going to go that direction. So they were bringing blitzes from the boundary because they knew that he wasn't going to see it, which is actually how McCullough got that sack. Like he just got completely blown up, right? Because they screwed up a protection. They brought it from the boundary. He wasn't even looking. So the Rams kind of knew that that's how the Eagles offense operates, but they were operating that way without having the easy button backside, It's like you kind of got to do both, right? You can't just cut the field in half, but then not have that vertical option on the boundary. All that to say, if we walk through drive by drive, you see how the breaking point was reached, and then you see how they fixed it. So we'll start early. They get an interception. They mount a 9-play drive. They get a touchdown. Okay, we're rolling. We're up 7-0. Every other drive in the first half was a 3-and-out. And they happen like this. So second drive, it's first quarter, 3:55 on the clock. Something got screwed up here. And you have two receivers going to the flat, and you have two receivers stacked on top of each other over the middle. You have a deep cross and an OTB route. The route distribution is completely fucked up, which is one of my main issues with Patullo, is it feels like receivers don't know where they're supposed to be. In the spoiler alert, in the sack fumble that happened early in the third quarter, you saw Saquon do a check release and like he's about to run to the flat, and then he realized there was a drag route going in front of him, and he's like, I'm not supposed to be there. And so then he broke the other direction. Jalen got sack fumbled anyway, but like that was still an issue into the second half of like receivers not knowing where they're supposed to be. Distribution's all messed up, spacing all messed up. So that one, basically throw out first down. Okay. That led to a sack on second down and a punt. Okay, we scored on one drive, 3-and-out in the next. We can recover. Here comes the third drive. Still in the first quarter, 1:17 left. They do a hard play action shot call on first down, which is like, okay, you're on your own 19-yard line. Do we have to do that right now? Like, let's just get the drive started. But that didn't work out. He tried to fit it into AJ, he had a safety coming down because it was just a pin and post. So it's like AJ's essentially doubled on it. It gets broken up. All right, now we're in 2nd and 10. That's when you get a 2-yard run and then the McCullough sack on third down, because again, they're going to bring boundary side pressure because on third and long, we know he's going to be looking to the field. They get the sack. 3 drives down. Fourth drive, they start with a 1-yard run, then a check down to Saquon, and then a 3rd and 7 happened that I think truly was the breaking point. And you can go back and you can watch this sequence of events in the game. So it's a 3-man concept of the field. Again, Rams are pushing all their zone coverage that way. They're taking it away. And they are risking having AJ one-on-one backside. And to Patullo's credit, he let AJ run the go route backside one-on-one. And he won. Like, it might have been like a 80-yard touch, whatever yardage they were on. Like, it might have been like a house call in one play if Hurts was looking that direction and let it go. But again, he's going to read to the field first, and he's only going to take that easy button if he feels like he can. That broke AJ Brown. He was pissed because he finally had the look he wanted, and it wasn't paid off. And then you come back the next drive. Again, these are like 4 straight 3-and-outs. You come back the next drive, first plays a screen, and second down, AJ is still pissed. He gets flagged for unnecessary roughness blocking. Like, he hits a guy in the face. Like, he's checked out. Like, he is completely over this shit. 2nd and 17 and 3rd and 16 are both give up runs. They basically just like, all right, this drive's toast. We're screwed. First drive of the second half, he's a decoy on the first play. Then he's a decoy on the second play. That's when the sack fumble happens. Like, he was beside himself. Like, there's not enough books he can read on the sideline to get over this. That was the breaking point, right? You give up the sack fumble. You're getting blown out. You're not getting your receiver involved. He finally had a look that he liked. Didn't get paid off. The very next drive, first throw. AJ, you're getting a speed out. We're just going to get you engaged. Caught the ball. I think it was like a 9-yard gain, something like that. 3 plays later, they hit the sluggo. And I don't know exactly what happened on the sideline, but I have to imagine there's conversations of like, hey, we have a receiver that outweighs these guys by 45 pounds, and we're not letting him do his thing. We're calling screens, we're calling runs. Like, we have a quarterback who's excellent at pushing the ball down the field. Like, what are we doing? We have guys who don't even know where they're supposed to be running. Like, Patullo, what are we doing? You don't have to make it complicated. He's one-on-one. Throw the one-on-one. And that's when they started doing it. And the comeback basically started right there. Once they realized, like, oh, we can win these outside matchups, we're not going to try to do anything else. So, yes, it was a Jordan Davis legacy game. They got a couple block kicks. They dominated on the inside. but they almost had to hit rock bottom at the start of the third quarter for them to remember who they are. And once they remembered who they are, I mean, this is still the Eagles we're talking about. Like, they're still arguably the best team in the NFL when they play like themselves. So to Eagles fans, long way to go for a short drink of water. I kind of feel like the worst is over, he said with trepidation, because we saw them completely melt down in game and then, kind of blossom from that into being, the 2024 Eagles that we remember. Like, they kind of had to go through that growing pain. Luckily, it was only for about 2.5 weeks, not 10 like last time.
I don't know that they had to go through it. They did go through it. They did come out of it in the second half. They did pull out a win that they shouldn't have based on how they played in the first half. But yeah, I put up a couple of tweets yesterday when this went on, and the first one was like, catches for AJ Brown are like spinach for Popeye. Right? As soon as he gets his hands on the ball, he just like starts railing over these smaller defenders, and he's like, see, I told you I can do this every time. And I've been, over there on the sideline telling you, and you're not listening to me. I'm going to show you on the field. He does. And then the Eagles, as soon as they realize, oh yeah, we have a superpower, they just started thrashing. Like, it was, from then on, it was like, uh-oh, Rams. Like, I don't know if that lead's big enough. Like, it looks pretty good on paper, but look at what's happening on the field. And again, the Rams had chances to win this game, but as soon as that switch got flipped for the Eagles, they are a whole different team. And everybody, and it flowed through the offense, it flowed through the defense, and everybody was just like, oh yeah, it's stomping time. Let's go.
And then there's a larger point to make even beyond the AJ Brown discussion of just like the mentality of this team, right? Because, everybody pays attention to the tush push and how they're like dominant in short yardage. And yes, they are. But you saw how the tush push changed their mentality on third downs. And I had put out a note like middle of last week about how their run rate was over 50% when they were in third and medium, basically on once you cross the 50-yard line and it's like go territory for them. Once they got to third and medium, their run rate was over 50%. The league average was like 18%. And so you saw that they were playing for the tush push, right? They were basically like, all right, every single opportunity now is 4 downs. And so we're going to basically run it on third and medium to set up a fourth and short and then get our fresh set of downs. And what that does, while yes, it increased the likelihood of them extending drives, it completely neutered their ability to be explosive as an offense. And it's like, okay, why are we paying these receivers if we're not going to try to be explosive, right? Like, you don't have to have every single drive be 11, 12, 13, 14 plays. Like, the Colts do that because because they can, and B, because I kind of feel like they need to. I don't think the Eagles need to. I think the Eagles can let their quarterback be a quarterback. They can let their receivers go in, and they can be explosive, and they can jump on top of you quickly and then set up their, on paper, great defense to then go hunting. And when they were almost like playing for the opportunity to do a tush push rather than just going over the top and scoring quickly, it's like you seen that episode of The Office where Kevin was like, why use many words when few words do trick? Why use many plays when few play do trick? Like, you have AJ Brown, just do that. And, again, there's so many things that I think, there's so many narratives about the Eagles that I think are wrong. And I think the narrative that this team can't throw is the most wrong one. It's not that they can't throw, it's that they wouldn't let themselves throw. And they finally figured it out that, oh yeah, we're still good at this.
And when that happens, we talk about football being a complementary game all the time. This is a complement within one unit. Like, we talk about the run game complementing the pass. This is the pass game complementing the pass game. As soon as it happened, as soon as you started to see AJ Brown get involved and start to go on his little mini rampage, the Rams got it. And they started rotating coverage, and then Devonta ate their breakfast. Like, it was over. And that's what they're built to do. We have 2 of these guys. If you go to this one, we're definitely going to this one. He's good enough for that. If you there's just no winning at that point. And then if you back off and play umbrellas and covered shells, we're going to run Saquon down your throat. So good luck. But when you don't give yourself that opportunity in the pass game, again, McVay kind of came in sort of tentatively and was like, all right, we're going to bottle up Saquon. And if they hit the big shot to AJ, then we'll rotate. But we're just going to be very, very quiet and hope they don't do that. And then they did eventually, and nobody was more sad than the Rams.
Also, one more note on Hurts specifically. God, he is so accurate. Like when they let him throw, he is so accurate. Going into this week, he only had one off-target incompletion in the first 2 weeks combined. He had the fewest off-target incompletions of any starting quarterback last year. And, again, talking sample size, everybody's like, okay, but they also throw the least. Like, of course he's going to have the fewest. But if you're just looking at rate of misses, he was better than Josh Allen last year. He was better than Lamar. He was better than Mahomes. He was better than Stafford even. He was more accurate, or rather had fewer misses than every other elite quarterback in the NFL other than Joe Burrow, because Joe Burrow's insane. But like, Jalen could whip it now. Like he's a great thrower, especially down the field. I just wish that they used it more. But he has zero ego, so he doesn't care. But I will care on your behalf, Jalen. You're very good at throwing the ball. Please, Kevin Patullo, let him do it. One quick note, then we'll get right back to the show. For those of you that don't know, I am 34, and I have done my time. Many a late night, especially in college. 1v1s on Rust, javelins and throwing knives only. Shit got wild at 3 a.m., sophomore year of college. And even though I am long since retired, because I suck at whatever Call of Duty is now, a lot of you still play, and a lot of you are still really damn good at it. Which, of course, makes it great that today's sponsor is just for you, 1v1 Me. On 1v1 Me, every single day, you can both watch and stake on whether it's Madden, NBA 2K, FC, or, of course, Call of Duty matches. All the matches are streamed live. There's also a live chat for you to follow along with. Every match has referees, and payouts are instant. And these are not just random online lobbies. These are all the best players in the game, whether it's pros, streamers, everybody in that tier. And over 100 million has already been paid out. So if you're a sports fan, or more importantly, a gamer, 1v1 Me is the place to be. Download the app today and use promo code BOOTLEG, and your first stake is risk-free. Again, that is promo code BOOTLEG on the 1v1 Me app, and your first stake is risk-free. Thank you to 1v1 Me for sponsoring today's show, and with that, let's get back to it. Now, I mentioned the McCullough sack where Hurts got detonated. Apparently, it's becoming a little bit of a running tradition that shots on Jalen Hurts get nominated for Bootleg Shot of the Week. That's going to be a nominee for this week. But first things first, we have to do our shot to toast last week's winner. Come on down, Omar Norman Lott, who also absolutely obliterated Jalen Hurts for his first career. Oh, God, that's a heavy pour. That's going to be rough. Whoops.
That's going to be tough.
But yeah, Omar Norman Lott, basically first career sack, looked like a WWE move. He was last week's winner. Oh, Jesus, what have I done?
It's going to be rough for you, bud.
That's going to be rough for me.
I'm slightly above the line. You're way above the line.
Again, this is not a shot glass. This is a glass.
Yeah, so. It's a tumbler. Fine choice of glassware as well.
Cheers to you. Oh, thank God it's Michter's, so at least it goes down nice.
I was going to say, what are you drinking? You got Michter's. I've got one of my favorites, Old Forester, 1920, Prohibition style. Good stuff.
A few moments later.
What were we doing? Oh, yeah.
Shot of the week.
This week's Shot of the Week nominees. Yeah. McCullough's sack on Jalen Hurts, obviously nominee number one. It might be the cleanest hit of the week. We'll see who hits Jalen Hurts next week to get their nomination. Jeremy Reeves, popping Dylan Labe coming down, filling the lane.
That one was great. There was a shoulder pad on a thigh pad on that one, and that is a textbook hit. Upended Labe, gave him no chance whatsoever. Love that shot.
That's our second nominee. Third nominee, Kevin Byard. Welcome back to Bootleg Shot of the Week. An absolute missile of a hit on Cavante Turpin down the sideline. Didn't injure him, but he definitely felt it. It was a clean hit too. Watching on broadcast, you're like, ooh, that might have been a little high, but nope, he landed the hit. It was clean. It was just vicious, our favorite kind. And then Mac Wilson getting a decleater of a PBU against CMC. I know 49ers fans thought he might have got there early, but in my opinion, he timed it just right, which is just my defensive bias kicking in. But hell of a job by Mac Wilson. 49ers did end up winning that game in dramatic fashion once again. Still 3-0 through all their injuries. We thought about talking about them today, but I think we're going to save them for the preview show later in the week. But those are your nominees for this week's Bootleg Shot of the Week. We'll reveal the winner on Thursday. You can vote in our public poll on the Patreon. That's where people voted for Omar Norman last time. We're going to leave a link in the description as well as in the pinned comment below. You don't need to be a patron to vote in the poll, but we'd appreciate if you became one. Once again, we'll reveal the winner on our Thursday preview show. Now, EJ, next game on the docket. The Chicago Bears have an offense again. Sort of, kind of. I mean, part of it is they were facing a Matt Eberflus coach defense that doesn't have Micah Parsons. But, we'll take the baby steps. How about that?
We'll take the baby steps. We'll take the large ones. We'll talk about all of them. But I'm going to start off with a fun little segment I'm going to call Food for Thought, because it has to do with both sides of the Chicago-Dallas game. But Sunday got me thinking, and it got me into some of the other issues we've talked about on previous podcasts this year. So, as you said, Matt Eberflus, former coach of the Bears, came to Chicago, and the Bears had their first really good offensive game of the year. Who else is struggling? Oh, yeah. We talked about BTJ a lot. People were heaping on BTJ in Jacksonville this week. Who's the passing game coordinator in Jacksonville? Oh, yeah, it's Shane Waldron, the deposed offensive coordinator of the Bears from last season. Oh, yeah. And then I was sitting there during the Sunday night game. Boy, that Kansas City offense looks like dog this year. Second half, it lightened up a little bit, but everybody's been saying, oh, yeah, they're not playing up to potential. Sounds a lot like what people were saying about the Eagles last year. Oh, yeah, who's the OC in Kansas City? Oh, yeah, it's Matt Nagy. Huh, weird. Anyways, food for thought. But the biggest changes, we're going to talk about the biggest changes in the Bears offense. I'll talk about a few other changes that also helped that weren't necessarily on the offense, but we definitely need to start with the offense because the offense has not clicked yet. There's a lot of pressure on Ben Johnson, on Caleb, on the Chicago organization in general. But the biggest changes on Sunday were the ones I called for last week on Bear Era. Kill the pre-snap penalties with fire. The Bears were averaging 6+ pre-snap penalties per game on offense. League average is barely over 2. So they're about 3 times the league average. And that was destroying drives. They had none on offense on Sunday. That is a massive improvement. And that kept drives ahead of the sticks and rolling. You think of it as many as 6 potential drives being unaffected by being set back by a penalty. That is a big deal. It is getting out of your own way, and it is controlling what you can control. We'll talk about other calls later on, but these are ones that you definitely have your hands on the sticks for. Offensive line's protection was better than it has been in a long time in Chicago, and I mean a long time. No sacks given up. So Caleb's first career game, 17 starts without being sacked. That is also a huge deal, keeping drives ahead of the sticks. Little combo stat for you. Next Gen has Bears left tackle Braxton Jones becoming only the 4th left tackle this year not to allow a single pressure in a game in weeks 1 and 2. By contrast, he allowed a team-high 12 pressures on 79 pass blocking attempts. That's a 15.2% pressure rate. He has been rounding back into form after an injury, and even this week, his offensive line coach said, look, in the first half, he's been very good, and in the second half, he's dropped off. We need to monitor that. I'm sure they talked about it. There was a talk of a rotation in the second half. Maybe he was fatiguing. Maybe it was mental. Anyways, Braxton squared it up, did not allow a single pressure throughout the game. When you combine that with the pre-snap penalties and the protection, you see what you saw from Caleb on Sunday, which is him being able to deliver what Ben Johnson wants on offense more often than not. We'll talk about the misses. They're still there, but because the Bears played well on offense, they took the pressure off themselves, and they haven't been able to do that in previous weeks. So things like really soft DPI calls or false start penalties or missed open throws all matter more. Offense clears the deck for you. If you have offensive success in the NFL, it rights a lot of wrongs. So all the wrongs didn't disappear. The run game still sucks. DeAndre Swift is still wildly inefficient as a runner. Like, there are still problems, but the reason that they didn't matter as much and you don't hear everybody in Chicago bitching about them is because the offense got out of its own way on penalties, protected the passer, and all of a sudden everybody went, oh, this is what they meant with Rome, with Caleb, with Ben Johnson. Gotcha. And the best news about yesterday, it's not even the best they can do. Like,
not even remotely.
That is like a midline performance of what is capable for the talent that's been assembled, for the quarterback, and for the play caller when they work. And again, they didn't work. You're going to talk about some of the times they didn't work. They didn't work all the time. It was not a perfect game by any stretch, and they were still dominant on offense, and that matters. It matters more maybe in Chicago than in any other NFL city because of the history, because of complete ineptitude for a long time now. It is a big, big deal.
I want to hit on your point about how they're not even remotely close to being like final form here. You know, this is like early Frieza saga, if I had to compare it to anything. Caleb still had 6 off-target incompletions, and I had watched every single throw last night at 12-something a.m. Because I couldn't sleep. I was like, okay, the Bears had a good day. I'm going to go back and watch that before I pass out. So I watched every single drop back, and they did a lot of the Ben Johnson-y type stuff, right? There's a lot of under center. They were top 10 in under center rate, top 10 in screen rate, top 10 in play action rate for the week, all of the stuff we expect. And he still had 6 bad throws. You could argue 7. They called it 6 on PFF. I'll say 6.5. How about that? And that was still second worst of any quarterback on Sunday. Only Michael Penix had more with 7. We'll get to him. But at the same time, they were second in EPA per play as a passing game. And that was because this team finally hit explosives. And they also finally pass protected super well. You talked about Braxton Jones playing well. Just to compare week 1 to week 3, they had 10 dropbacks under pressure in week 3. They had 20. They doubled that against Minnesota. And it just makes all the difference in the world, right? Because even if Caleb is inaccurate, the fact that you're not compounding that inaccuracy with him running for his life and either taking sacks or having to throw the ball away while scrambling, you know, if you don't stack those two things on top of each other and you don't have a whole lot of penalties, like, we can deal with bad balls. We can't deal with bad balls with sacks, turnovers, and penalties. So I think you fix one thing at a time. They fix the operation, at least for this week, and they fix pass protection, at least for this week. And then we can work on the accuracy from there. Like, we've seen quarterbacks, it's not common, but we've seen quarterbacks go from really inaccurate to deadly accurate in the past. We hope that Caleb is one of those. But I think your point about, like, they were just mid and still put up that many points is an accurate one. And they, thank God, had a get-right game this early in the schedule, because this Dallas defense is awful. Like, truly awful. It almost, I think about what this defense looked like week 1 against the Eagles, and I look at what the Eagles are in the second half against the Rams, and I look at what the Cowboys defense is now, and I'm like, that game shouldn't have been close. Like, they should have absolutely dog-walked them. So, you know, again, 3 weeks in, cream is starting to rise, and the bad teams are starting to fall. Dallas is a bad team. And they're about to be even worse. CD's going to be out for maybe a month. They're about to be a really bad team. It's good that the Bears got them in the schedule now to kind of just build some confidence and kind of, I mean, they call it a get-right game for a reason. But they are by no means anywhere near where they need to be if they want to, you know, make noise in the NFC and make the playoffs. They got to trade for a running back, in my opinion. DeAndre Swift, he ain't cutting it. This was a yet another week where they were top 10 in yards before contact per attempt at 1.0, which is a very solid number. And yet they were second to last in yards after contact per attempt because Swift will basically just get what is blocked for him and not an inch more. Like, the blocking's been better. They need a better running back, or they need to give Roshan or Monangai or somebody more snaps. I would say them not being in on Brian Robinson and them not being in on Bigsby is an error by polls because DeAndre Swift is not a starting running back. If they can fix that, if they can just get like league average running back play, like this offense could potentially be way better than it is right now.
Fully agree, and we called for this last week as well. So there are some things that were sort of that's offense that didn't go well. Again, they averaged, Swift had 2.5 yards per carry. Monangai did play more in this game. He's 2.7. Roshan's not fully back from injury yet. Maybe that will help, but again, he struggled to stay on the field. So I'm with you. I believe that they need to be in on Michael Carter from Arizona's practice squad. They should have been on Bigsby. Like, everybody's like, oh, it's too late. You didn't do anything free agency in the draft. It's never too late. There are good guys floating around on practice squads, and you need to give some of them a chance because DeAndre Swift runs into the back of his blockers inside. I put out a funny tweet yesterday about DeAndre Swift in space, which was a large World War I field gun from the railroad, and, DeAndre Swift in tight spaces, which was a water gun, and 1.1 thousand people liked that tweet. It's not unknown that DeAndre Swift is not doing enough with the carries that Chicago is providing, more the blocking that Chicago is providing him. So that's one thing they need to improve. But other things they did improve that really helped, the defense got cleaned up. They were giving up 39.5 points a game. They put on more pressure. They only got 2 sacks, but they had 14 pressures on true pass sets versus Dallas. And again, in the first couple of weeks, they had 9 combined. They had 14 yesterday. That's going to make a big difference, just like them protecting Caleb's going to make a big difference. Takeaways, they've not really been in the takeaway game this year. They got 3 INTs and a fumble recovery, which is extra possessions for Caleb. So, hey, if he squanders one with a bad throw, it doesn't matter. We've got more. They limited the mental lapses and coverage busts, which were a big problem on Dennis Allen's defense. Didn't see as many of those. Saw some harder hits in the secondary. People are starting to understand their role a little bit better, even though Jalen Johnson didn't play in this game. The cornerback play was very solid. That matters because if you're not down by 14 points, your offensive playbook looks very different than if you are. And also the youth movement. People have been banging the table saying, hey, all these first and second round picks are healthy scratches. They're not playing. Loveland, Burden, and Shamar Turner all played yesterday. Loveland saw 3 targets, ran a really tough route, ended up getting through that, getting a catch for 31 yards. He got dinged later, but bullet dodged. Apparently not serious. He has a chance to play next week. Burden had 3 catches, 101 yards, and a touchdown. Also had a kick return for 15 yards. And Shamar Turner, somebody that we were not super big fans of, had 23 snaps yesterday, by far his most of the season, more than Billings, who had 22. Those contributions don't only matter for yesterday, they also matter for down the road. Getting those guys involved, they're all impact players. Got to see them on the field to have that impact. So while there are things the Bears still need to improve, they actually played a fairly complete game for the first time in, I don't know, forever.
The Jacksonville game in London it's the only time I've ever seen them play in the last, well, I want to say several years, but it's been a while. That's the only other game I can think of.
To come out of a game like that and say the defense played pretty well. Again, not perfectly, but pretty well. The offense played pretty well. Not as well as they can, but better than we've seen, certainly under Ben Johnson. And the running game still sucks, but they won anyways. If they can get that cleaned up, and they do need to work to do that, this is a team that can make some noise down the stretch. Are they going to be playoff bound? I don't know. They need to find some consistency. I'm not going to jump up on my soapbox after one game, but boy, it sure feels good to go. That's what they meant. That's why they put all those people together, all the coaches, all the players. And to see it play out on the field, yeah. And Dallas, I'm with you. They're in trouble. We said 2 things about Dallas. I have lots of friends that cover the Cowboys, and I said to them in the summer, you're welcome, Matt Eberflus. There's nothing like Matt Eberflus coming back to Chicago for a get-right game. And they were like, is it really that bad? And I was like, It might not look that way in the beginning, but it's pretty bad. And the other thing we said about Dallas in the summer preview series is the top line talent's really good, but it's also really thin. They don't have a lot of depth. Now CD's down. They're missing games. Kenny Clark was down for a few plays. I don't know his injury status. Like, if you lose just a few top line starters, they've already had some cornerback injuries. Like, that team is going to get bad in a hurry.
I would just, last note on the Bears from me, I want to caution people now the same way that I cautioned them after the first couple of weeks, because you and I both, we were frustrated with this team, but we were not in the, oh my God, throw in Tyson Bagent or Caleb's a bust. People were way overreacting after the first 2 weeks, and we said it then negatively. I'm also going to say it now on the positive side. People are overreacting. This team still has very clear flaws. They're going to, I don't want to say they're going to look better than they are, but they're, 4 out of their next 6 games are, I'm pulling up the schedule right now. They have the Raiders, they have the Commanders, they have the Saints, they have the Ravens, they have the Bengals and the Giants. So 4 out of the next 6 games are against some pretty bad teams. It's very possible they're going to go into November 16th at Minnesota above 500. I still think there are very real flaws that could cause them to get boat raced by the second half of their schedule, where they have Minnesota. They have whatever the hell the Steelers are. I still can't figure them out. We're like a month into the season. They have the Eagles. They have the Packers twice. They got a ferocious Browns defense. They got the Niners, who, despite consistently getting injured, they just lost Nick Bosa to an ACL tear announced while we were recording this. They still keep winning games, so who knows what they're going to be. And then they finish up hosting Detroit. I'm still not confident this is a playoff team. So I want to caution people against being too positive. But if they can just be solid, like if they can carry this momentum into being like a not great but solid team and just stabilize the foundation, 2026 I'm feeling a lot better about. But until they fix the run game and until the defense plays more than like one good game, I'm cautiously optimistic, to say the least.
Okay. Lottery pick. First off target, off agenda rabbit hole for the week.
Huh.
Target for a running back trade. Yay or nay?
So,
yay or nay? I have a name.
Oh, you have an idea already. Okay.
Dameon Pierce.
I'll respond to your question with a question. Would you rather Dameon Pierce or Alvin Kamara?
Oh, Kamara is like the ultimate rental. If the Saints decide to go fire sale, I think it's Kamara, because he gives you more right. He gives you more right now, and you have to change less in the offense going from Swift to Kamara than you do Swift to Pierce.
Mm-hmm.
However, some of the things you really need in Ben Johnson's offense that he has always had a player to do. He had Jamal Williams, and then, he borrowed from Chicago, got David Montgomery. He's always had that hammer, and that would be the Pierce role, not the Kamara role, right? So it would be Swift and that hammer, which they were hoping was going to be Roschon, but he hasn't been able to get back on the field. So Pierce and Kamara, two different things. Like, give me both, and now I'm talking about Chicago in a very different light, but give me either one, and you're going to see an improvement in either half of the sort of Jekyll and Hyde parts of Ben Johnson's rushing offense.
I'm going to add one more to it.
Okay.
He has 1 year left on his deal after this. So his contract is up after 2026. Would you rather have Kamara or Chase Brown?
Oh, I think I would rather have Kamara right now.
See,
Kamara's one of those guys. I mean, for youth, for sure, and cost, Chase Brown would be superior. I don't love Chase Brown's fumbling issues, which he mostly seems to be over. But also, Kamara is doing that thing that like Saints and Bucks do. They just play well into like year a billion, and he shouldn't be playing as well as he is right now. Again, nobody's paying attention in New Orleans, but Kamara looks like he hasn't slowed down one bit.
I want to get Chase Brown out of Cincy. Like, we need to get that man some space.
Oh. I see what the motivation is.
I just want to see what he can do with like a yard to work with.
He's
That would be great.
super explosive, great athlete. We talked about all this in the run up to his draft process. My big issue with Brown was he fumbled a bunch in his last year before being drafted. He fumbled a little bit as a rookie, and that's a difficult thing to overcome with running backs. But in terms of explosiveness, elusiveness, he's a very good runner.
We're going to get right back to the show in just a second, but I want to thank the HOF app for helping to make this show possible as one of our sponsors. And if you don't know who they are and you like to play either parlays or pick'ems, this is the app for you. They're not an operator themselves, they're just a parlay optimizer, and they use 500 million different data points and have analyzed over 800,000 parlays. You could research player props, you can get different parlay ideas from the leaderboards, and in general, just make your parlays or your pick'ems that much more efficient. In my deep experience of blowing my final legs on parlays and pick'ems, it can help just to get an extra set of eyes on whatever you're planning on doing that weekend and maybe use some data to talk you out of some really bad ideas. So if that sounds appealing to you, you can find the HOF app on iOS and Android. And if you use promo code BOOTLEG, you'll get a 7-day free trial and 50% off your first month. Again, that is promo code BOOTLEG on the HOF app. Find that on iOS and Android. You're going to get a 7-day free trial and 50% off your first month. Thank you to the HOF app for sponsoring. And with that, let's get back to the show. Next game on the docket, and I want to say this earnestly. Falcons fans, I apologize.
Yeah.
We wanted to talk about you earlier. We really did because the defense was playing well. I still think it played well this week. Like, they were in a dogfight. They held on as long as they could. You know, they made it a 10-0 ball game for as long as they could until the pick six happened. This is a much improved Falcons defense, and they deserve all the credit in the world for that. And we wanted to hit on it earlier in the season. I apologize we did not. Unfortunately, the first time we're bringing your team up in a while is whatever the hell just happened with Michael Penix in this game. That was a disaster. Like, a complete and utter disaster. And I watched the film this morning because I saw the stat line and I saw that he got pulled for Kirk when the game was out of hand. And I was like, surely it can't be that bad. It was that bad. Like, he's had some shaky outings so far. That was his worst. And if you want to go down the line of whether it was seeing the field, which I don't think he saw it well at all, whether it was accuracy, whether it was not taking care of the football, and this is really going to upset some Falcons fans. He looked like Desmond Ridder out there. And I think he's better than Desmond Ridder. I really do. But if you get drafted where he was drafted, you can't look like Desmond Ridder, right? Especially when your team had the third best pressure rate allowed up front, like even dealing with their injuries up front. Like, he was not really pressured in this game. You know, Carolina's pass rush was not that effective. They got home a couple times on blitzes and like affected him. And like Derek Brown beat Lindstrom. Like, I've never seen Lindstrom get ragdolled like that, but Derek Brown is Derek Brown. It happens. Like, they got to him a few times, and when they did, they made it hurt. But like, in terms of volume of pressure, he wasn't facing that much. He was just straight up inaccurate. Straight up wasn't seeing the field well. Like, it was awful. And if I'm a Falcons fan, like, very few things I think could make me nervous with a quarterback who's had as few starts as he has. That game made me nervous.
Small sample size, and what it reminded me of, I'm not going to go to a previous Falcons quarterback. I'm going to go back in Michael Penix's history, and he had some games at Indiana like this. So when he transferred to the University of Washington, he obviously had the extensive injury history, which was the biggest red flag. But there were also some games at Indiana where he kind of lost the thread and played really poorly, and those worried me as much as the injuries. Injuries were obviously first because without being healthy, he wasn't going to be on the field. But it took me a long time, and I'm talking about almost 2 full seasons of really good play and injury-free play at Washington for me to start trusting Michael Penix, because he had both of those things. It wasn't one or the other. And this one reminded me a little bit of that. I did watch it live. It was a rough outing for him. 172 yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks, a 40.5 NFL passer rating, which is in the cellar. And again, despite not having any pressure from Carolina. No sacks and only 2 QB hits. Normally when you have a performance like that, it's, oh, he was hassled all day. He was running for his life. The protection was breaking down. Wasn't the case. He had some time. 50% completions, 4.8 yards per attempt, average time to throw almost 3 seconds, 2.84, and 55.8% of his production came from yak. So of that 172 yards, he didn't throw for all of that. He threw for just over half of that, or just under half of that. Now, this is one that bugs me, and it bugs me for a couple of reasons. One, it's a very small sample size. He's only got, 7 starts. But Michael Penix Jr. is 0-4 when opponents score more than, wait for it, 7 points.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah, right. Like that's a jump scare.
I thought you were going to say like 17, 18. I was like,
exactly.
No. If they allow more than a touchdown, they lose.
Right. And the only wins he's got are against the Giants in 24. They scored 7, and the Vikes this year, they scored 6. But if you look at the other passers from his class, Drake May has already surpassed that. Caleb surpassed that. Even JJ, who only basically has 2 starts, surpassed that in his first start, right? So it is not like, oh, he's done. He's never going to be good. It was a bad pick. I'm not talking about that. It's something to monitor going forward. And if he doesn't clean it up in the next 7 or so games, by the time he's rounding into about a full season of starts, that's not good. You do need quarterbacks at some point to just show it, kind of, no matter how bad the talent is around them or how much they're trailing by in the fourth quarter. Even with Drake May last year, when he was getting the hell beat out of him, we saw the flashes. We saw the ability. And we've seen flashes with Penix too. Again, this is not dirt on Michael Penix. This is, keep an eye on that. That's not great. Usually you see it before half a season worth of starts. We haven't seen it yet. Doesn't mean we won't. But when you have a day like yesterday, it definitely sort of pricks your radar up a little bit. And you're like, hey, what was the reason for this? Because it wasn't that he was getting harassed, and we need to get it solved pretty quickly.
I want to expand on a couple, because I know not everybody listening to the show has access to all 22. So I'm going to expand on a couple of things that I saw, and you can make of it what you will, right? Like I said earlier, he had the most off-target incompletions of the week with 7 out of any quarterback on Sunday. He only did that in about 3/4 of action, so that's even worse, right? That's basically the equivalent of what CJ Stroud did against Tampa the week before, which we properly lambasted that performance as well. Early on, I'll kind of walk you through a couple of the, not highlights, lowlights, I guess. So 3rd and 6. That was really the unfortunate part, is a lot of these misses happened on 3rd and 4th downs. 3rd and 6, very early miss was his fault. Even though he was hit as he threw, the guy who hit him was his responsibility, right? It was a blitz. I think it was either a safety or a nickel that was coming through completely clean. And the protection, you can only handle so many guys at once. So you're going to slide one direction and then you're hot off the other direction. It was his responsibility to throw hot. If this man was not picked, or rather if they brought a +1 to that side, it was his responsibility. Drake London was looking at him because Drake London saw the blitz coming pre-snap, and then, the DB took off. And so Drake turned, he's like, throw me the ball, dude. And like, at that point, you're supposed to cut your drop short and just get rid of it, which he does have a quick release. Like if he actually sees it, he can get the ball out quickly. Instead, he did the full drop, and like he tried to hit something over the middle, like even with a DB screaming at him at full speed, whereas London had, 20 yards of grass in front of him if he just did what he was supposed to do as a quarterback and throw hot. So that was a 3rd down that got wasted early on. 3rd and 8 shortly after that, there was a far hash out, and he has the arm for it, obviously, to throw these outs from the far hash, but you have to place it correctly. He missed that one wide. So that was, again, another drive over. They went 3 of 8 on 3rd downs in the first half. Probably should have doubled that. I know a lot of Falcons fans are criticizing Zach Robinson for how he's calling the game, but like, he called a fine game, in my opinion. Like, the quarterback just wasn't hitting the throws. So this was not a coaching issue. This was a quarterback issue. What, like I said, wasn't a protection issue. The pick 6 was a horrifically bad misread. This was, I think, in the third quarter when he totally melted down. It was just a simple rotation into 3-week. Like they showed 2 high pre-snap, they rotated into 3-week. The Panthers do that literally. I'm not even kidding. Literally more than any other team. We went through this in the summer. They led the league in terms of post-snap rotations into cover 3 last year. They do it a lot again this year. It's like their thing that they do. And it wasn't even like they were bringing pressure with it. It was just a rotation into cover 3. And, he looked front side, wasn't there. The backside hook defender blew the coverage. Like he completely jumped to the front side, didn't stay in his area. There was a receiver wide open sitting there in the hook area. And he, for whatever reason, progressed right past that guy into the flat, blindly threw to the flat, straight to a curl flat defender that got picked off. High school quarterbacks aren't supposed to do that. Like that's when I say this was Desmond Ridder. Desmond Ridder does that. So that was a completely inexcusable pick 6. The second pick, it's like partially on him, but also partially on Ray McLeod. Excuse me. I thought Ray ran a really shit route on that one. But again, like it wasn't exactly a great throw either. So, the fact that Atlanta missed 2 field goals early meant that they had no margin for error. It could have been a 10-6 game. Instead, it was 10-0. And then he threw the pick 6 and it was 17-0. Then he threw another pick, became 20-0. And the game's over at that point. So I really do think that loss is entirely on Penix. And I agree with you. I'm not saying his career is doomed. I'm not saying he absolutely is not going to work. But when you play for as long as he did in college, you're kind of supposed to be ready, right? Like you're supposed to not take as long to cook in the oven. And I'm not seeing it. So again, I treat him the same way I do Bo Nix, where it's like, if you played 6 years in college, you're supposed to be ready. And I don't feel like he is.
We'll see whether he is or not. And all quarterbacks have horrendous performances, right? You go back to any Hall of Fame quarterback, they've had 4 interception performances. They've had 5 interception performances, all of them. And there are just bad weeks that you have to flush. You can either watch the film or not watch the film. If you say you know what you did wrong, yeah, I don't care how you approach it. You got to get it out of your mind. You got to have that cornerback, not quarterback mentality, and just play for the next rep. I got burned. Doesn't mean I'm going to get burned the next time. But you do have to come up with some demonstrated wins. Like you have to demonstrate the ability. It's not good enough to just have it or say you know it. The NFL is a meritocracy. You've got to put it on film. You've got to put it on the field. And that's got to add up to something for your team, especially when you were drafted as highly as you were. And then they handed you the job with a veteran quarterback in the wings, because that noise, for all the supposition that that his backup was going to be traded in the offseason, and we thought that might be a wise move for multiple reasons, he wasn't. He's still there, and you bet that the rest of that team, full of professional football players who are trying their ass off after 3 or 4 weeks of that, if it continues, are going to be like, hey, dude, like, we got one right here. We know he can play. What are we doing here? And that's going to get super loud unless Penix has some bounce back games. Like, I'm not saying one. It can't be up and down like this every week. He's got to come back and say, hey, that was the bad one. I got out of the way. I'm playing at least at a median NFL mid-level for the next couple, and then I'm going to have a game where I, win it for you in the fourth quarter. That, too, is expected when you're drafted in the range he was and played as long as he did in college. So we've got to see that fairly quickly, and if we don't, it's going to get pretty loud in the Falcons locker room.
I have bad news, EJ. I Googled it, and they do not play the Cowboys this year. So
damn it all.
You're just going to have to do it the hard way. Luckily, they don't play the Browns, though, because good God. Like, that was... So I have complicated thoughts on this game, right? After the first 2 weeks, I, among many others, was talking about how Green Bay might be the best team in the league. Jeff Hafley had this defense playing extraordinarily well. They were injured up front on the offensive line, and they were still pass protecting well for the most part. Jordan Love was playing out of his damn mind like especially in the TNF game against the Commanders. Like his average at the target was like 15 yards with an adjusted completion percentage of 80. Like it looked like this team was a juggernaut, right? And some people were pointing out like Cleveland was a potential trap game because, okay, you're coming off of, a primetime game. You're coming off of, 2 emotional weeks against 2 other, NFC powerhouses. And it's easy to overlook Cleveland, and you're on the road. And like the dog pound is actually a really tough place to play no matter how good or bad Cleveland is. Like they just tend to be super scrappy. And everybody's like, okay, this could be a trap game. That wasn't even a trap to me. Like that was just a bludgeoning. Like that wasn't like we're getting unlucky here. Like no, Cleveland kind of beat the shit out of them up front. And this defense is the best it's looked since 2023. Like they had a really, really down year in 2024, mainly because they couldn't cover anybody. Martin Emerson, who is injured this year, but last year he was healthy. He had a really down year. Hopefully he gets healthy again for 2026. And when you play that much man coverage and you're giving up touchdowns in man coverage, everything else kind of unravels. This year, they're still playing a lot of man coverage, but they're covering really well, and their pass rush is even better than it was in 2023. So if you can play man and you can rush the passer without having a blitz, there's not a team that's safe from you. And Cleveland is once again that kind of team. Like nobody is safe from them. They could do that to anybody. God, they're just a tough team. And I'll get into the pass rush part of it soon, but I look at them differently now than I did 48 hours ago.
Yeah, they definitely, again, have put something on film that makes you sit up and take notice and go, oh, are you back? And there's 3 reasons I'm wearing this shirt today, because A, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. B, it's just a kick-ass shirt. I love the design, and I don't get to wear it often enough. And C, it's brought to us by our friends over at Homage. So if you too want kick-ass shirts for your team, go check them out at the link in the description. But as far as what they did to Green Bay yesterday, this really comes down to a couple of things. Some of it, self-inflicted wounds. We talked about this with the Bears and getting rid of those. The Packers have been largely free of them, but they weren't yesterday. 14 total penalties, false starts, offsides, defensive holding, DPI, you name it. They pretty much ran the gamut. They got one of everyone and a couple of some other ones. And then pressure getting home. So in week 1, they allowed 4 pressures. This is all, again, in true pass set situations. 0 sacks and 1 QB hit. In week 2, against Washington, they allowed 8 pressures, but it didn't result in anything. No sacks. In week 3, on Sunday, also 8 pressures in true pass situations, but 5 sacks, 3 of them in the first half. That'll change your outlook pretty quickly as a play caller. Your playbook shrinks. LaFleur is a smart enough coach to go, well, we can't hold them up today, so this half of the playbook that requires 3.5 seconds for the play to develop is gone. I can't use that side. And you're going to talk about how the defensive line really worked together. I was just impressed with individual efforts as well. Carson Schlesinger, rookie middle linebacker for them. Very smart player, comes with a great pedigree from UCLA. And watching him run his stunt that he got the sack on, he ran it really tightly to the pick player, who was Malik Collins. And as soon as he cleared the pick player, because he was completely hidden, he's a lot smaller than Malik Collins. As soon as he cleared his hip, he was a step and a half away from Love's face. Love had no chance. He didn't see him coming. Schlesinger had a really good beat on him. He was moving at speed. And if he'd taken a wider loop, there would have been that extra tick for Jordan Love to throw it away, get out of that play. It just didn't happen. And there were multiple examples of that. But that pressure made Love check down. And then the Browns rallied and tackled. This was the game plan. You could tell from Schwartz. It was, we're going to get on him. We're going to make him take the options in the flat because he's not going to have time. And then we're just going to run to the ball and tackle. And Delpit had a really good day tackling, but Jordan Love's air yards per attempt on Sunday, 1.2.
It was that deep, huh?
Yeah.
It felt shorter.
It felt shorter. Could have been negative. Could have been one of those days, but those 3 sacks before the half made Matt LaFleur go, well, we came in here with a plan, and you usually don't see it from the Packers offensive line. As somebody that watches plenty of Packers football, their offensive line is annoyingly well coached and cohesive, no matter who's in there. They can rotate 3 new starters in. They can switch guys from the right side to the left side, and very rarely do they have busts. They really understand their assignments. And that dam broke like in the first quarter. There was pressure in Jordan Love's lap, and he didn't know what the hell to do with it because he doesn't see it a whole lot. It's not like Caleb, who's been running for his life, or multiple other quarterbacks who realize, like, you know, your guy, CJ Stroud, he's been seeing pressure all year. He knows it's coming. He's used to it. Jordan Love is used to being able to sit back, make a read, pick apart defenses, and use that big of arm of his that we've seen. That was not the case. And I'm sure he, after the first couple of drives, went back to sideline and he was like, Coach, what is this? Like, what am I supposed to do? I've got 2 or 3 guys in my lap within 3 seconds on every play. How are we going to fix this? And they didn't find the answers. And as a result, not only was that depth of target really bad, but then you look at like the pick that he threw to Delpit, and there's no justification for that. He made up his mind pre-snap. He looked over there. He was
frustrated. He's frustrated. Like
he looked over there and he went, yep, Delpit's going to go with that guy across. And he tried to, at the snap, be looking to the right, and he looked back to the left, but that was simply to try and look off coverage. He didn't like assess what was going on the left at all, because Delpit passed that guy off. He didn't even take a half step. He like leaned to his left foot, passed that guy off, and was already breaking back to the flat route. And by the time Jordan Love came back and threw it, he threw it right to him in the chest, 5 yards from him. It was just a frustration. It was like, here, I'm going to take this sort of easy manufactured completion. I quote unquote know it's going to be there pre-snap, and I'm just going to do it. And he got bit.
You say, what's the answer? There is no answer when the average time to pressure is 1.99 seconds. Like, there's no passing plays that are more than a yard down the field that are designed to happen within 2 seconds. But they had to be. Like, the pressure was getting there that fast on average. Myles Garrett had just a ludicrous day. 46% pass rush win rate. Collins was at 33%. Collins was like the unsung hero of the entire day, not just creating pressure for himself, but creating pressure for others. It wasn't just Schlesinger, it was also Mason Graham too. Like Graham's early half sack was because Collins crossed the face of the guard so quickly. And not only did he set up Mason's stunt behind him, but he got there so quickly that he forced Love to step up into Mason. So like Collins was creating for others. Mason himself created for Alex Wright. All of these guys were just creating sacks and hits for each other, and they were doing it instantaneously. Like that entire game is teach tape for how to run stunts. They didn't blitz that often. Like I think it was like single digits that they blitzed against pass plays in this game. But they stunted so well, and Miles was, dude, Miles was on one in this game. And I just think back to the offseason, I think it was Super Bowl week when he was doing his media tour and he had requested a trade. And, I asked my buddy, and my buddy's over in Cleveland, and I was like, what would it take? And he's like, a price that nobody's willing to pay. Right. That game is why. Like, holy shit, dude. Like, this season, it might be the best season Miles has started. And that's saying a lot, because this is a future first ballot Hall of Famer that is going to be whispered in hush tones alongside like Bruce Smith and Aaron Donald. Like he's in that category. And the first 3 games of his season this year are like even above his standards. He is unreal. And when Malik is playing like this, when Mason Graham, not even Batman, not even Robin, like if Mason Graham is your Alfred and he has that kind of day, which, his win rate was 15.4%, which is a third of what Miles's was, but like 15.4% is really good for a DT. Like, what do you do? Like you just die, right? And then you compound that with the penalties. I know Packers fans, like, you have to consider the penalties. Yes, we do, right? Because they had 3 third downs that was a 3rd and 4 turned into a 3rd and 9 after a false start. Drive over, sack. You had a 3rd and 22 after a penalty. Drive over. You had a 3rd and 6 after a penalty. Drive over. Like, they had manageable 3rd downs, but the penalties all of a sudden made them unmanageable against this pass rush. And you package that with not being able to run the ball. You package that with Jordan Love under pressure having a yards per attempt of 1.9. Like a 51.6 passer rating under pressure, because he could not operate. He couldn't even get out of the pocket. Pressure was getting there so fast. Like, I don't want to say it was an unwinnable game because clearly it was winnable at the end, but like, if the Packers couldn't win that game in Cleveland, do you think anybody else would have done better? I don't. Like, the Packers are an amazing team this year. If even they lost to Cleveland, I don't think there's anything anybody in the NFL could have done against that.
Yeah, back to your thoughts on Miles. Mina already put out a tweet this morning, said, appreciated the Packers forming a conga line to deal with Myles Garrett because there's literally 3 guys between him and Jordan Love. And he still ended up with pressure on that play. He's an alien. We've said that for a long time. He is one of the rare players with rare physical gifts and works that hard and has that skill level. There's nothing you can do against those guys. It's the guy that your youth football coach told you about. And you're like, well, what if a guy's really big? And you're like, well, if he doesn't have good technique, you can still beat him. And you're like, well, what if he does have good technique? And you're like, well, if you outwork him, you might be able to beat him. And then you ask your coach, well, what if he's really big, he has good technique, and he outworks me? Those guys are going to the league, son. Like, you got no hope. You're just going to die. So that was part of it. But the Packers, again, despite all this stuff, they should have won this game. Like, the self-inflicted wounds from the penalties, the fact that LaFleur went away from Jacobs, who is clearly the engine of this offense, with nothing creative to Jacobs. He tried him, just slamming him in the middle of the line, but that wasn't working, and they didn't sort of shift that. They shifted away from Jacobs, but they shouldn't have, because he is clearly one of their best threats on offense. They look so polished typically. Like, Jordan Love looks calm, and they convert third downs. They keep drives going. They couldn't find any rhythm yesterday. They used a timeout with 8 minutes left to go in the third quarter. This is a stat we highlighted in the summer series, like timeout usage, in the first and third quarters when you don't want to be using timeouts. Like, that's very atypical for a LaFleur coach team. And they just couldn't find that rhythm. They looked ill at ease the entire time. And despite that, if they'd hit the field goal that was blocked, Cleveland would have been under pressure. They would have been kicking for a tie. They could have done it, but the just avalanche of defensive pressure from the Browns made them look like a middle school team for half of this game. They just couldn't get it together. And that was kind of shocking. As somebody that watches Packers football, again, all the time, you're so used to them just relaxing. And you saw them do it in the second quarter. They're like, no problem. Game's even. We're going to march down. They get the touchdown. They're like, aha, okay, this is where it opens up and we beat Cleveland. Cool. And then they fell off again, and Cleveland just wouldn't quit. Quinshon Judkins was a big part of that. Harold Fannin Jr., again, another rookie, contributing on a couple of big
conversions. That 3rd and 20 was clutch from Fannin.
He's a boy. Like, I was a big fan of his, and he was one of the guys that I was really happy that I sort of held my ground on, because a lot of people were saying, look, great college player. I don't think it's going to translate. And I was like, I think there's enough there that it is going to translate. He might not be a star at the next level, but I think he is not going to be a bust, because he had production every single week, to your point, when he was coming into places where everybody and their brother knew he was the option, right? Nobody was going to face his college team and going, I don't know, who's this Harold Fannin guy? Like, he was, item 1, week 1, Monday morning when you faced them, like, we got to stop Harold Fannin. Everybody came loaded for bear, and nobody could. That's what you want to see from a guy playing at his level, and we're seeing him find ways to get it done in the pros. So credit to the Browns. They played a tough game. They beat a very tough team. They made them look certainly lesser than the sum of their parts. And, going forward, it's notice. You go play the Cleveland defense, you better come ready. Tighten that chin strap.
Quinshon Judkins, it was a tough sledding kind of day for him, because this Packers run defense is really good. They were down 10-0 in the fourth quarter. He popped a 38-yarder, which was, I don't know, like
huge.
45% of his yardage on the day was in that one run, but they just needed that explosive. Like, they really, really needed it. And, it's one of the, hold on. I have the actual stat here because I looked it up, because I was like, it's like they had a good rushing day, but like not really.
No.
So outside of that 138 yarder, they only had 3.2 yards per attempt. And even though they were 18th in rushing success rate across the entire league on Sunday, they were 4th in EPA per play because of that one run. Right. So this team is going to have to get explosives any way they can. Luckily, Judkins, eventually after banging his head into the wall over and over and over again, finally broke one. So, if the run game is passable and if the passing game doesn't throw it away, this defense is going to be good enough for them to win some games. I don't know how many, but damn, that was a special performance.
Yeah, a couple notes on the Packers before we move on because they're going to matter. 12:32 left in the third quarter. Micah got whacked on a chip. Mm-hmm. Running back hit him in the chest, and he stayed down for a minute. And if you watch the plays directly after that and for about another quarter, which was until there was 4 or 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, he did not have the same push in his legs. He was coming off the ball. He was standing there. He was kind of occupying his guy. He did not look at all like Micah Parsons. That is something to monitor for a player coming off an injury that we all thought was just contract negotiation. And then when he got to the Packers, said, no, my back was actually hurt. He got leveled. He was engaged with an offensive lineman. He got a very serious chip from running back. He spun around and he just laid on his back. And other Packers were pointing at him get that guy up. And then Javon Bullard, the safety, got knocked the hell out. 3:50 to go in the fourth quarter. Didn't look terrible at the time, but when he hit the ground, he was completely limp. His arms were moving. He got up and walked off the field, thankfully, but I would not at all be shocked if he was in the concussion protocol. In fact, I would be shocked if he wasn't. Those are two players on defense that matter for the Packers going forward. And again, sometimes when you play a hard-hitting team, you come away with injuries that can affect you down the stretch.
Well, we managed to do an hour 15, hour 20 on 4 games in classic bootleg fashion. So, people get frustrated. We don't talk about more teams, but when we talk about them, we talk about them in depth as much as we can. So again, we try to cycle through teams every single episode. If you have any particular games you want us to preview this coming week, please drop them in the comments below. We're recording our public preview show. Let's see, this comes out Tuesday. So we're recording our public preview show today for you, which is Tuesday. And then we're recording the Patreon bonus preview show because we do a bonus episode on Patreon every single Friday. We go over 3 extra games. So if you want 3 extra games, or rather if you want to nominate a particular game for us to go over in the Patreon show, drop those in the comments below. We'd love to do that for you. Also want to thank all of our executive producers on the Bootleg Football Patreon: Fitzy, Connor, Liam, Mike, Jack, Major, Owen, Patrick, and Spencer. Appreciate all of you guys once again, and really all of our patrons. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you back here on Thursday, I think, for the public preview, and we'll see you on the Patreon for the Friday public preview. See you then.